Imagine trading your worst hitter for Freddie Freeman. Imagine you're already on pace for 116 wins before that trade. Is that a happy imagining? Well, it becomes reality tomorrow. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And thanks to those of you who are with us live here on Thursday evening. We appreciate all of you. We appreciate whether you're listening now or later. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers, and make it easy to find by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snyder. That guy next to me is my co-host, Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like most of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. And I just realized I didn't turn my head around. I was on Clint's show earlier. That's a hat backward show. This is a hat forward show. Sorry, guys. Here I am. Freddie Freeman. I hope he's not as out of practice as I am, because Freddie Freeman comes back tomorrow, Vince. Friday, the return. The Dodgers officially optioned Hunter Fiducia back to the minors today, which means no setbacks with Freddie. They're planning on him being in the lineup. They haven't officially activated him yet, but what a great day, because the Dodgers, they had a hard time in Freddie's absence, and not necessarily because of Freddie's absence, but when they lost two games by one run on that road trip. And so, and won by 2 runs. Having Freddie Freeman in the lineup may have helped them overcome some lackluster pitching, which we're going to talk about in the second segment. Having Freddie Freeman in the lineup is always a good thing.
Yeah, obviously, for a lot of reasons, there's a lot of excitement around Freddie coming back, but it lengthens the lineup because of what we talked about yesterday or 2 days, whenever it was, where the Dodgers have depth, but when there's multiple people underperforming, that depth is going to look like they don't have depth. And right now, the bottom of the lineup is kind of a black hole, similar to the start of last year, whereas last year it was mostly because the bottom of the order wasn't hitting. This year, there's one extra guy in there that probably shouldn't be in there, and now they're going to get Freddie Freeman back in the middle of that lineup. He's going to add to that. Everyone gets bumped down a little bit. Maybe – I don't know if Max Muncy feels extra pressure when Freddie Freeman's not in the lineup, but if he does, hopefully that lessens his burden a little bit and he can figure things out. And like you mentioned in the opening, you're taking somebody out of the lineup that is a lot worse of a hitter than Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, have you ever played the card game called Scum? No. Basically, each hand, your goal is to get rid of all your cards, and the order in which you get rid of your cards determines where you sit for the next hand. And if you went out first, whoever went out last has to give you their 2 best cards, and you give them your 2 worst cards. That's kind of what the Dodgers are doing here. They're playing baseball Scum, and they're saying, okay, whichever guy we want to boot out of the lineup for any given night. And unfortunately, they do have a few options, but Kike Hernandez, you're not playing first base anymore. So are you going to play third base? And we'll sit Max Muncy tonight. Are you going to sit Kike because you're not doing great either? Are you going to play second base and Tommy Edman goes to center field and Andy Pages sits? All these options, whatever it is, you are trading somebody who's underperforming for Freddie Freeman, one of the best hitters in the world.
And it helps you keep Edman at second base if that's what you really want to do, because it's very easy to keep seeing between Kike and Pages who figures it out offensively first and stick one of them out there and hope for the best at this point. And, an occasional day you're going to have Edman in center and you're going to have somebody else playing second base. But it just changes the dynamic of the lineup because, like I said, everyone gets bumped down a spot. You're taking out one of your worst hitters. You now have 6 guys that are playing relatively well or above their means or at what they're supposed to do. And then you have the bottom 3 that is a mixed bag, and you're expecting all of them to be a little bit better than what they've been so far. So, yeah, for that, and, obviously the pageantry of it being on his bobblehead night, and Charlie Freeman's going to throw out the first pitch, and there's a drone show after that I'm sure is going to celebrate his walk-off homer, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot to be excited about beyond just Freddie Freeman on the field, but the fact that it's all coming together right now, and the fact that it's April 10th and we're this excited about the return of Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, and I mentioned I was on All Dodgers with Clint Pasillas right before you and I went live here. It had a lot of fun talking with him. And one of the things we talked about is how the impact that Freeman has, not just on the one guy he's replacing the lineup, but like you mentioned, that it maybe takes some pressure off some of the other guys. It if nothing else, it locks down your top four. Ohtani's batting leadoff, Mookie's batting second, and then some order of Freeman and Teo are batting third and fourth. That is set in stone. And then you've got all the other guys. And so Tommy Edman, maybe he's not built to be a three hitter, even though he's a good enough hitter to hit third. Maybe he is more comfortable down the lineup. I actually threw out the idea of batting him ninth to get, a better hitter on base in front of Shohei Ohtani. We also talked about the possibility of Max Muncy batting ninth so he can get more pitches to hit and maybe do take some walks. And, it's all these options to get guys on base in front of Ohtani, which hasn't been happening. But just the ripple effect, your domino effect that Freddie Freeman has on a lineup where it just ties everything together. I as good as we feel as fans, like just having Freddie back, that lineup, the locker room, they feel the same way. It's like Freddie's back. All is right with the world. We got the MV3. They've only played 2 games together all season. Now, tomorrow will be number 3, and hopefully we'll get, another 140 something the rest of the way of them all playing together and really start to see this Dodgers lineup the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, when you look at the Dodgers lineup and the way some of these at-bats are spread out, you look at at-bats with runners in scoring position. The guy leading the way is Kike Hernandez, and obviously he hasn't been hitting very well, so there's a lot of missed opportunities there. You got Teo, Conforto, Edman, Smith, Mookie kind of next, but you know what Freddie Freeman is? He ranks near the bottom. He's only batted twice, runners in scoring position, and he's missed a lot of games. You know who else only has 2 at-bats with runners in scoring position? Shohei Ohtani. So, yeah, like you mentioned, that bottom of the lineup is where this is going to change because you're going to have either an Edman or a Conforto or a Will Smith, in line in that 7th spot to maybe even if he starts the inning, gets on base, you get 2 outs with the bottom guys if they continue to struggle. But at least Ohtani will come up with somebody on base. But the fact of the matter is, Ohtani hasn't had many chances. And I feel like the Dodgers have had a little bit of a weird thing where the top 5 are hitting well, but it feels like, Ohtani goes 2 for 4, but his hits are in the 1st and 3rd inning. And Mookie goes 2 for 4, but his hits are in the, 5th and 7th inning. And then, Will Smith comes up to bat and he gets his hit in the 5th inning, but there was nobody on base at that point. So, hopefully this, meshes it all together a little bit.
Yeah, and when we've had people telling us Dodgers should move Shohei down to the lineup so he gets more at-bats with runners on, and that's definitely an option. But the best solution is to have the guys at the bottom of the lineup get on base more. We saw it a couple of years ago when the bottom of the lineup, Gavin Lux was the best number 9 hitter in baseball there in, what was that, 2022? The year that, all those years run together. But 2022, before Lux had his neck injury, he was hitting really, really well, batting 9th, and it showed because you had the top of the lineup with Trey Turner and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman all getting plenty of RBI chances last year. Shohei Ohtani only batted leadoff for 2/3 of the season, and he drove in 97 runs from the leadoff spot, plus what he had done earlier in the season. It's possible to do. It's just those guys getting on base. You don't even need a guy with a 400 on base percentage there down at the bottom line. Just getting on base sometimes.
League average. That's all we're asking for. League average from the bottom of the lineup.
Yeah.
Obviously better than that, but
Chris Taylor proved it. He's been on base 1 time this year, and Shohei Ohtani hit a home run for him and let him score. Just get on base for Shohei. Give him a chance to do something. He'll do something. Not every time, but plenty.
Yeah, like I said, give him the chance to do it. And, you look at runners on, now runners in scoring position. Shohei Ohtani still ranks 8th on the team in at-bats with runners on base. Only 1 more at-bat than Pajes and Rojas. So, nobody's getting on ahead of them. Hopefully this fixes things. I do like, Edman at the bottom or someone else at the bottom that, can have, Muncy. If you put Muncy 9th, he's going to get better pitches to hit and, maybe he'll be more inclined to walk. I feel like he's just been swinging pretty freely this season so far.
Yeah, to take the pressure off. Your only job is to get on base for Shohei Ohtani. You don't need to hit home runs. Just get on base one way or the other. Hit a line drive or take a walk, and I promise you will score plenty of runs if you're on base in front of Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman. That's as close to hashtag math as you can get. So yeah, it's an exciting time with Freddie Freeman returning for all sorts of reasons. The Dodgers lost 3 straight games because of their starting pitching, but do the Dodgers have a pitching problem? We'll tell you next. Keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert customer support and industry-leading service, so you always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Hey, we are back. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks for being an everydayer if you are. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. We appreciate all of you, whether you're here with us live or listening later. You can also go beyond the podcast to become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. And for your second listen, you can check out Locked On MLB, hosted by our buddy Paul Francis Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, covering all of Major League Baseball for the Locked On Podcast Network. So, Vince, we've talked a little bit about the pitching the last few days because, unfortunately, the starting pitching has been the story. Thankfully, yesterday, the bullpen was the story too, in a good way. But the starting pitching between, Tyler Glasnow's clunker and then the two young guys being even worse the last couple days. 3-game losing streak that was, the Dodgers actually broke that streak by overcoming Landon Knack's clunker, but it's been a rough few days for the starting pitching for the Dodgers. And, we've seen some comments in our YouTube channel, on social media saying, I thought the Dodgers had pitching depth. I thought that's what this team was built on. And, people seem to be doubting that at this point. I don't doubt it. And I'll tell you why, but Vince, what are how do you feel about that? The Dodgers pitching problem, quote unquote.
Yeah, it's a problem when people pitch bad. That's an easy answer there. But the depth is there, but it just hasn't presented itself in the right light. And also, when you talk about the depth, they're down 2 of their top starters. That they're already down. Kershaw's down, Ohtani's down. We knew that already. But then they lost Gonsolin right before the season. That's another guy down. And then they lose Blake Snell in season. So, that's 2 guys from the original ones that were going to be at least in the mix for the rotation in terms of Gonsolin, that are down. And now you have Robleski and Landon Knack, who have made starts, and both have had varying degrees of success in the past, Knack a little bit more, and you don't expect them to do what they do. It's similar to where the offense, you're not expecting Kike to hit 100 and Andy Pages to not hit it all, and, Miguel Rojas to not hit it all. Like, you're not expecting all that. You're expecting them to at least do something occasionally. So I'm not worried about the pitching depth at the moment. They have the depth, whether that is them pitching well, that's a different question. But it seemed Blake Snell was supposed to throw again on Monday. I think I read, Tony Gonsolin's probably at least 2, maybe 1 to 2 rehab starts away from getting back in the mix. Landon Knack's going to get one more shot. I feel like he's going to be better. And, all these could be quelled over the weekend with, your 3 big names that are still in the rotation, kind of shutting down the Cubs offense that has been really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of it is just the fact that it came in 3 straight games. Like, if Tyler Glasnow had pitched as well as he normally does, and that had happened between Robleski's start and Knack's start, we might not be having this conversation at all. But, the fact that it was Glasnow 2 and 3 straight games, it kind of makes it all feel worse. But I wonder if some of it is just kind of people having a different understanding of the purpose of the depth, because the Dodgers pitching depth, the goal was never, hey, let's get so many pitchers that we win all 162 games. The goal was, let's get so many pitchers that even when guys inevitably get hurt, we can still remain competitive and win our division and go into October, fingers crossed, with at least 4 healthy, really good starters. And when you talk about Yamamoto, Glasnow, Snell, Sasaki, May, Gonsolin, Ohtani, Kershaw, like those guys, and I listed Kershaw 7th on purpose, or was that 8th? Anyway, it kind of makes the point that you've got all these options that their number one goal with all this depth was to not repeat last year's pitching situation in October. Obviously, we would love to repeat last year's overall October success. And it was kind of funny because you and I, Vince, we talked to a lot of the hosts of other Locked On shows around Major League Baseball. And we were talking one today, and he mentioned, from our perspective, from an outsider's view, the Dodgers don't have any problems. And obviously that's not realistic. And it kind of underscores the point that we all focus just on our own team. And so we see our team's problems as unique to our team. And like the Dodgers have, and sometimes it is true, the Dodgers last year, I think they did have more pitcher injuries than any other team. But a lot of times it's just, we just notice it because it's the team that we care about. But it was kind of a nice reality check for me to talk to somebody who's an outsider's view. And it's like, what they see is the Dodgers have missed Freddie Freeman for 11 of their first 14 games. And they're still on pace for 116 wins. Shohei Ohtani isn't even pitching yet, and they're still on pace for 116 wins. Blake Snell's on the IL, and they're still on pace for 116 wins. Like, from an outsider's view, like I can totally understand why people hate the Dodgers, because it's annoying.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot, and we obviously winning the World Series didn't help.
Oh, it helped a lot. It helped me so much.
It didn't help us specifically in the sense, or it did help us like have more confidence, or at least me. Like, I feel like, after last year, not that, we don't even worry in the regular season a lot anyways, because at the end of the day, we know the Dodgers are going to be playing in October, but we do look toward October. And if you're worried right now, Landon, Knack, and Justin Robleski made starts for the Dodgers last year. And, multiple starts for the Dodgers last year.
In the postseason.
Yeah.
In Landon Knack's case.
Yeah. So I don't think that's a real worry at the moment. Now, if we're sitting here in September and Landon Knack and Justin Robleski are still making starts and, they haven't necessarily been lights out, then, yeah, maybe, the conversation changes. But right now, it doesn't change. The fact of the matter is the depth also plays into the fact that you're not going outside the organization to have to find somebody to make a spot start. They've used 2 guys already, and they have another one in Bobby Miller that are already on the 40-man. They have another one in Nick Frosto that could be, a guy that comes up and makes a spot start. He's still getting stretched out a little bit down there. And then they have Tony Gonsolin, hopefully returning soon. Blake Snell returning soon. Like, the depth is there. It is a funny joke for people, online when it's, oh, you spent, $1 billion on your team and Landon Knack or Justin Robleski are making a start. But yeah, every team's going to have that, no matter who it is, no matter how much they spend. If we go up and down and look at starters every day, we're going to find people that we've never heard of.
Yeah. Nick Tepesh was the name I was trying to remember. You remember him?
Yeah, I do.
2016.
I remember the name.
He made 1 start for the Dodgers. Nick Tepesh. Yeah, I'll take Landon Knack over Nick Tepesh every day. Nicole makes a good point in the chat. I'm going to pop it up here on the screen, mostly just to kind of poke a stick at people who get mad every time we mention the weather. I still think the weather, the muddy grounds got to Glasnow and Philly, he'll be all right. And yeah, again, when we mention the weather, it's not to make excuses or to say those games don't count because of the weather. It's to say, guess what? Next time Tyler Glasnow pitches, it's going to be at Dodger Stadium on a dry mound. And he's probably going to be roughly Tyler Glasnow, who is a really good pitcher. And yes, there are concerns. Yes, sometimes there's bad weather in October, blah, 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 blah. We'll deal with that when it happens. I think April bad weather is different than October bad weather a lot of the time, but who knows? But the fact is, I think it's undeniable that the rain is the reason that Tyler Glasnow didn't throw very many strikes on Sunday. Whether it's
especially considering the way he started the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what that means for me, again, it's not that Sunday's loss doesn't count. It's that Fridays or whatever, Sunday, is he pitching Sunday again? Yeah. Yeah. So Glasnow on Sunday against the Cubs at Dodger Stadium, probably going to be quite a bit better than Glasnow against the Phillies this past Sunday at Citizens Bank Park.
With the weird April schedule with all the Thursdays off, it feels very college-like right now for the Dodgers, where Yamamoto, Sasaki, Glasnow has been the Friday, Saturday, Sunday threesome for I think the whole month so far. when they started at home at Dodger Stadium, and then when they went to on the road this week, and then this weekend again. So it was a little college in that regard.
And I also want to throw Matty Man 5 Dodges comment up just to thank him for giving me a perfect example of how we who follow the Dodgers think that things are unique to the Dodgers. He says weather only ever seems to affect the Dodgers. The Dodgers won one of the games in Philadelphia, and the two they lost by a total of 3 runs. The weather affected the Phillies too. It just affected the Dodgers slightly differently in a way that led to more runs or whatever, But yeah, weather hurts everybody, and somebody's got to win every baseball game, even if the weather sucks for both teams. And when it's your team losing twice, it's frustrating. So the Dodgers broke out a new on-base celebration, this time poking fun at the best player in the world. Where does it rank among Dodgers sillies? We want your thoughts next on Locked On Dodgers. Hey, we are back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Thanks for being an everydayer. Please subscribe wherever you're watching and listening. Please throw a comment down in the YouTube comment section right now if you are on YouTube, either live with us or watching later. The live chat is fun, but the comments live forever. And so throw some stuff down there. It helps keep people engaged in the show even after we are done talking live. So we appreciate that. Also, be sure to go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can text directly with us, have one-on-one conversations, join our exclusive Discord server to talk Dodgers there, all sorts of fun stuff. So check that out. And we've been wanting to talk about this for a few days, Vince, and there's just been baseball games going on, but there wasn't a baseball game on Thursday. And so we could kind of finally have a chance to talk about the Dodgers news celebration. It actually came out. I think the first time it was done was Shohei Ohtani's walk-off home run against the Braves. Shohei himself introduced it. And my favorite thing, Vince just did it on the screen. If you're watching, it's making fun of Shohei Ohtani's some skincare product that he endorses in Japan, a commercial he did where he's doing this cheesy thing. It's a very dramatic commercial. And just like a couple of years ago when the Dodgers watched Freddie dancing at the gala and said, wow, we can make fun of that publicly, constantly, every single day. It's like, hey, let's make fun of Shohei. I love the fact that Shohei was the first one to do it, to just just so everybody knows, I am in on making fun of me. It's so much fun how much these guys just love playing together, and that it is poking fun at their superstars, and that the superstars are in on it. It very much, it makes my heart happy.
Yeah, I would imagine they probably have a lot of different things they could have gone. I'm sure Ohtani has at least 10, 12, 15 commercials out there in Japan. And I'm sure they got to see a lot of them when they went out there. This one was funny ultimately because when it first happened, you weren't entirely sure. I thought Ohtani was just shielding himself from the water that they were about to throw on him. And then not till the next day some people started saying, oh, maybe this is what it's from. And then it got confirmed by Kirsten Watson on the broadcast. And then a lot of the guys started doing it the next series when they got to Philadelphia. They started doing it, for base hits and stuff like that. And yeah, it's fun. It's interesting. I like the way the Dodgers bring something from outside to it. A lot of teams have celebrations. Some are directly tied to something the team does, like the Dodgers. Some are just generic celebrations that they want to do that year, like with David Peralta and the train. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of that. That was something he brought to the team, but it wasn't necessarily organic. Like the Freddie, even the hip lock thing is from their pregame workouts that they do, where they were making fun a little bit of the training staff because of them. I'm sure one of them does it exaggerated, and that's what they wanted to bring.
And the fun thing is also they haven't abandoned the Freddie dance. They still do that on a double. They do the Shohei thing for any hit, but for a double they still start with the Freddie dance and then the Shohei thing. Kike Hernandez did more of like a Kill Bill version with his two fingers on his home run.
You gotta get it right, bro. If you're gonna do it, you gotta get it right.
Kike's always been a little bit more, more dramatic, like a little bit fancier. So, but yeah, they probably give him a hard time about that. You mentioned the freight train one with David Peralta. That was fine. The classic one was barrels are overrated from back when Chris Taylor was actually a good hitter, and it was ironic. And now it's just, we would,
every hit a Chris Taylor hit is.
I'll take a bloop single from Chris Taylor any day over the strikeout. So, yeah, but he still does, when he does occasionally get a hit, he still does barrels are overrated at first base. And that's just kind of his thing, even going back somewhere behind me. I can't tell if it's on camera right now or not. I've got Oh yeah, right there. Justin Turner and Adrian Gonzalez, the bobbleheads of them doing their selfie pose together. That was always a fun one. There's some that they've done at home plate like that. They had the bubble maker a long time ago. We were trying to talk before, and there was Trey Turner with the what was that, Wolf of Wall Street?
Wall Street.
A lot of fun celebrations, and it always is organic. And like you said, that's why the freight train one was like a little bit different, because it was just, hey, here's what I do when I get a double. I do the freight train thing, and
then I have the memory of him doing it when the Dodgers were down like 10-0 in game 1 of the NLDS that year.
And you're like, are you still on the D-backs? So, but yeah, it's I don't know. I wonder, is anybody in the chat, are there any other ones that we're forgetting? Anybody, if you're watching this, throw it in the chat. Clint says our hats are the wrong way. Clint, if you'd been here on time, you would have seen I forgot to turn my hat around at the beginning. So I got it right now. But yeah, I don't know what it is. And again, maybe this is a case of, because I do watch the Dodgers and not other teams, maybe other teams like their celebrations just as much. I feel like for the Dodgers, because it is the superstars and making fun of the superstars, like I have a hard time seeing other teams doing it quite the same way.
Yeah, a lot of other teams there, they'll have maybe a more generic celebration. I'm sure that, like I said, I'm sure there's some teams that have one that is similar to the way the Dodgers find theirs, making fun of somebody or making fun of some moment. A lot of teams have the dugout special, whatever it is, after home runs. And I wonder, the Dodgers had the bubble machine a long time ago. That was fun. That year was fun because people started bringing their own little bubble things, and there was bubbles every time Dodgers hit homers. The Red Sox just have their mascot head one. The Mariners have the trident. Last year the Tigers, I don't know if they still have it. They had like the pizza, the Little Caesars pizza. A lot of teams have had a lot of that. Obviously, it would have to be, the Dodgers have the seeds. I guess, does that qualify as
and that's another one that I really like, because it was just, I think it started with just Teoscar was like, I'm excited. Here's a handful of seeds. I'm going to throw it in your face, and it became a thing. And, and then like when it's Ohtani, then he and Rojas do the decoy thing. Kenny mentions the pepper grinder that they did for a little while that we won't talk about that on this family friendly show. But yeah, I like the organic things, and this one's, even though it's like, it's clearly planned, but it came from an organic place. It came from Dodgers all hanging out together in Japan and saying, oh my gosh, Shohei, that you really filmed that commercial and you let them put that on TV. We're going to make fun of that. And
that's the funniest part about Shohei too, is that, we've seen him open up a lot more since he came to the Dodgers, since Ippei has been removed from being with him. But you see some of the, all the ads that he does and then the commercials, and you're like, damn, Shohei really does all this like in his spare time. Like, he goes to shoots and he does all this stuff and he gets ready and he gets dressed. And, I'm sure he's there for, maybe he has a 30-minute clause in his contract or something, but he's there probably for at least a couple hours getting all this stuff. And it's just funny, we've seen him open up now, but it's so funny to see guys put in those situations, because you think like, yeah, the money must be really good sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that Shohei Ohtani could sign a contract to only get paid $2 million a year for his baseball activities. All that really did was expose Ippei, because the baseball salary was the only account that Ippei had access to. So that he was the only one affected by Shohei's deferrals, and that ended up being a good thing, I guess, to expose that. But it's, I think Teoscar Hernandez's role in this has to be like mentioned. You know that he was a big part of starting this one, because Teo and
because that has to be someone that has that comfortability with Shohei, to be like, okay, we're gonna make fun of you.
Yeah, and you can see even from back when Shohei was on the Angels and Teo was on, I forget, it was the Blue Jays or Mariners, but like they were on the All-Star team together, and like Teo has always gravitated to Shohei, and so he's loving being his teammate, and they're like best buddies, and speaking Spanish together, and Teo, the sunflower seeds, I think it might have been Shohei, the first person who Teo ever threw sunflower seeds at. It's just like everything Teo does on the field is awesome, but this is why we as fans were so on board with bringing Teo back. Yes, we recognize his defensive liabilities. We recognize his sometimes vulnerability to a slider from a right-hander, but what he does on the field, plus everything that he does, like he is the happiest man in the world, the friendliest man in the world, and just kind of brings out the best in everybody. And when you throw in the fact that you've got guys like Mookie and Freddie and Shohei who are just so eminently likable, and it's just such a great, even guys like Will Smith and Max Muncy look like they have personalities around these guys. And it's just like, I love this team.
Yeah, it's, obviously we're fans of the Dodgers, and there's been guys in the past that maybe some people have deemed unlikable. But for the most part, the Dodgers have had, if you're a fan of the Dodgers, they've had a pretty likable team. They've had a lot of guys that mesh well. There's been, the core guys, the guys that are 1 year, 2 years in and out. There's been a lot of fun with this team, and it's a different type of fun. And we've talked about this a lot in the past when it came compared to, to like the Padres and Dodgers, and the Padres seem like they're having so much more fun because they have so much more energy. And, there was a little bit to that because, even Dave Roberts mentioned it after losing to them in the playoffs in 2022. But there's also a matter of, this is like childish fun. I like childish fun rather than, the rah-rah. There's times where I do want rah-rah, and I'll go back to the non-rational side of myself and say, I want the rah-rah. But at the end of the day, like, this childish fun is the one that, ultimately builds probably the strongest relationships.
And I'll tell you what I like about all this, even more than the bubble machine, and definitely more than a lot of those home run things you mentioned that other teams do, is that it doesn't require props. Like, the closest thing we have to a prop is a handful of sunflower seeds that are already in the dugout. They didn't have to make a jacket. They didn't have to make a trident. They didn't have to make an OMG sign. It's just, this is just, that's how it started spontaneously. Like, you didn't have to go out and have something made for this thing. I don't know, something about
like the Red Sox laundry cart one, even though I wouldn't want the Dodgers to do it because I could see somebody getting hurt.
Somebody would get hurt. The Dodgers can't get in a shower without getting hurt. You're definitely not falling in a laundry cart. So it's fun, and I'm glad we finally got a chance to talk about it. Dodgers start a 3-game series with the Cubs Friday. 3 with the Cubs, 3 with the Rockies, this 6-game homestand. Again, Freddie Freeman bobblehead night on Friday evening. Charlie Freeman throwing out the first pitch. A lot of fun coming up. You got anything else for today, Vince?
Yeah, one thing we didn't get to mention on the other shows, Octavio Dotel was part of a tragedy in the Dominican Republic when a roof collapsed at a nightclub. A few other former MLB players, a couple other former MLB players, Nelson Cruz's sister. I think the death toll is over 100 now. So, just thoughts, prayers, condolences, positivity to all those involved. Dotel was a one-time Dodger, the Immaculate Grid legend. I think he played for 13 teams. So, just a quick little shout out there.
Yeah. So thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can get us wherever you get podcasts and or on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Dodgers. Obviously, subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. In fact, if you're listening, go subscribe on YouTube too. If you're watching, go subscribe in a podcast app or two. We appreciate all of that. We appreciate all of our everydayers. You can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSince91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and both of our DMs are open there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK5625. We are here every weekday morning. We hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you Sunday night.
Have a good one.